Welcome back to the channel, everyone. So today we're going to talk about one of the shoots that I look forward to every year, and it is the multi-day shoot I have with the South Carolina football team. And I believe this is probably year 5 that I've been putting these behind the scenes videos up here on YouTube. And this year was a little bit different. We had 2 setups running. I had my typical photo setup going, and then next to me we had a video setup going where we had, I think, 12 RGB LED lights set up in different formations that the guys would kind of mix around day to day to see kind of what was working best in their cameras. But they had the 1x3 Westcott rapid boxes with 1x3 Pro Light mods on those to create a really neat kind of wall behind the players that they could use during their videos. So that was really cool, having all that going on while we had the players rolling through over a 4-day period that we were shooting all this content that they'll be using for the season. But before we get into all this content I'm going to show y'all today in this video, I want to thank all my members over on my Patreon for sponsoring this video and making a lot of these videos possible. They help support this channel. If you would like more information on photo shoots just like this, please come over and visit. This shoot specifically, I have a 30 plus minute video where I've got my 360 camera and we'll run through basically everything I do with the players when they come through my photo setup, and then I narrate it there on Patreon to kind of let everyone know, let y'all know what's going on, show you results from the shoot, and really cover everything from the light powers to kind of diving deep into the different light setups and that type of thing. So go check me out over there. Also, I do have 2 spots, I believe, that opened up for the one-on-one Zoom calls that I will do over there. I get messages on social media from people asking a lot of questions, and that's kind of really where I handle all those types of things. So if you have a few minutes and that sounds like something you're interested in, please check me out over there on Patreon. Link will be down below. So now let's jump into all the parts and pieces of this photo shoot, and like I said, it's something I look forward to every year. It's fun to when I've been in the business, well, when you've been in the business as long as I have, you realize that shoot days are the best days because there's a lot of the other type stuff that goes on in between shoots. So when I can get 4 days in a row using my camera, it's something I really look forward to. So let's talk about the camera while I'm sitting here holding it. I use the Canon R5 once again. So I've got 2 of these bodies, and so if something happens to one of them, I've got a backup, and that's kind of the way that I like to conduct. I feel like if you're I feel like if you're a professional, you'll need more than one body in case something happens to your initial body during a photo shoot like this. So I've got my Canon R5s, and if you watched my last video, I did talk about the Mark II version and some of the changes that I was hoping were going to be coming to that camera. They didn't really hit too many of the boxes I was looking for. But that being said, this camera, and it was on my mind during the whole week working with these guys, just how good of a camera this is. And if you are not, or if you haven't moved to mirrorless yet, this is probably upcoming when they release the new camera. The prices come down on this R5. It is a great camera to jump into. And I was using the 24-105 f4 lens. This is probably one of the least expensive RF lenses that you can get. Works perfectly for these types of scenarios. There's no reason that I'm going to be going any wider than f4 for these shoots. And for this shoot specifically, I was at 6.3 for the whole shoot. So right now I think you can get this R5 and this lens probably for less than what the new Mark II version is going to cost. So something to think about out there. All right, so 24-105 f4. I was at, as I just mentioned, 6.3 and 200th of a second sync speed, the max for this camera with the strobes. I was hoping that it was going to be higher in the R2 or the R5 Mark II, but it's I think it's 2/50th, so it's a little bit faster. And then I was at ISO 320, and if you saw my camera settings video, you'll know I kind of I set that ISO taking in consideration how many lights I'm using on set, since I'm using battery powered lights, and it also gives me leeway if I need to go up a little bit or down a little bit. Like I said, these cameras are so good now. you can shoot probably up to 800 to 1000 ISO, and the files would be really as good as anything you would need to use. So that's where I was on this camera. Let's talk about some of the other gear I was using in conjunction with this camera. I was using, once again, the lever lock right here for my tether cable that Tethertools came out with. This is a fantastic tool. It's such a time saver in consideration to the previous tether block they used to sell. You don't have to worry about taking it on and putting it on and taking it off every time. And I want to thank Tethertools as well for, they sent me this cable. This is their new 31-foot cable. This is what they call, I guess, a one-way cable. Something I didn't really fully understand before I saw them at Imaging this past year, and they were explained to me that when you connect, specifically Canon cameras, I believe, you can't control what the camera is doing through the cable. So when you normally connect a Canon camera, it's going to charge itself as well as transmit the data through the cable. This one, I believe they've engineered, it's just a one-way, so that your camera's not going to get charged, but it's going to, I think that opens up the data, so it makes it easier for the data to go from your camera to the computer. It also doesn't, I believe when you're going both ways, there's a lot of wear and tear on these cables. So the cable should last longer, and the data transmitting should be cleaner than just usually hooking up some of their previous versions cables. And that's a mouthful there, but also at 31 feet, this gives me plenty of room to move around on my set without having to worry about yanking the cable out of my computer. It's got two boosters, signal boosters, that will help keep that speed up through the cable. And you've got the 90-degree angle that goes right in here to the side of the camera. But I thoroughly enjoyed using this. They also have a new little case here. It's like a tech pouch that you can put your cable in. The cable's fairly expensive, so it's kind of nice to have a case that you can use for your cable. We'll quickly jump to the lights. You'll see them in my behind the scenes video here from the set. But I was using the Westcott FJ400s and the FJ200s, all controlling them with this remote. Now that we've run through all this stuff, let's jump over here to the computer. I'm going to show y'all, basically we'll walk through the lighting setup that I was using, and then we'll jump from my photo setup to the video setup with all the RGB LEDs that were being used over there. Right here you can see the overview of the setup. I've got 7 lights when I'm not using the ProLight mod kind of setup. If you saw my video from last year, and I will link it up here, it was a little bit different. I had an extra backdrop and 2 more lights over the back, and I was using umbrellas last year for my edges. This year I brought in this strip box over here. So I like to mix up things as much as I can. When you are working with a client like this though, they like to kind of keep things as uniform as possible so they can mix and match images from previous years to current stuff. So when they have a need for something during the season, if for some reason we didn't get it this year, they can go back and use last year's, and that seamlessly to a point kind of runs in, they can use it with the other images without it looking completely different. This year also brought a overhead light. So let's kind of run through here. I'm going to move forward. So you can see my key light, my main light here on this boom it's an FJ400 with the 36-inch Manny Ortiz beauty dish. I like this, to use this on these types of shoots where I'm shooting full body as well as tight stuff. Just it gives me a little more coverage, makes it a little bit easier on myself. And then I also have the option to turn off like my fill light, which I'll show you in a minute. Which is going to be kind of next camera, where it's going to be next to me. But this is just a great light. You can do a lot of different things with it. You can feather it off, bring it in, use it for almost full body coverage. Depending on what your players are wearing, you'll see in some of these examples, they were wearing white pants with a garnet jersey. So I really didn't need too much power on the fill to get the full body images, just because the lighter pants that they were wearing on this uniform. So camera left would be a 7-foot Westcott umbrella to give me that initial edge light. And then I've got the FJ200 with a reflector up here. I had ones on either side. Let me scroll forward, you can see that. And so those just give me that extra rim that I've shown in so many videos on here now, that I like to combine on these types of photo shoots, to where I can really round out the edges of light that I put on these players. And like I said, on the right hand side this year I went with the 4-foot strip box. This is going to give me just a little more of a defined edge on that side of my players. Just a little bit different than the wrapping light that comes from this 7-foot umbrella over here. And I don't like to, typically I don't like to shoot so symmetrically where I use the same modifiers on either side. I just feel like visually it's a little more interesting when I can mix things up a little bit. And then up top I've got the 43-inch Westcott umbrella that was giving me a nice overhead light, and I really am glad I brought it this year. And you can do so many things. I'll show you when I went to backlight these subjects. What I did is combined these two reflectors with this overhead light in the group on my remote. And so when I turned off all of the other lights, then I would have an overhead and then those reflectors and the ProLight mods. It gave a really cool effect during the photo shoot. And maybe I'll pop some of that up during this when I'm talking about it. And then this is my fill light, which was right next to me. This is my camera position right here. So this was what was kind of filling in the rest of my players in conjunction with this 36-inch beauty dish right there. All right, so let's scroll around. Once again, I'm using the X-Drop Pro backdrops from Westcott. These are just so easy to set up and break down in comparison to your standard kind of cross beam 2-stand backdrops that we used to use. They are on the short end for when you're working with these teams with these big players, both basketball and football. So I'm using my FJ400 cases once again, like I did last year, to give me an extra 12 inches of height. And like I said, I don't think they would advertise this use, but I haven't had an issue with it, and I've done it now for 2 years with on this shoot and some other shoots. And right here you can see I've got two more lights with the ProLight mods strapped to the 1x4 rapid box. Rapid box is back here, and then I have these on C-stands, so I can easily raise them up over the top of the backdrop, and you'll see these in some of the images where we were doing kind of the more stadium-ish type look for some of the images that we cycled through during the photo shoot. So I got two of those there, and then initially when we were first kind of putting together this lighting setup, I was thinking that we would I kind of was thinking going back to a couple years ago when I first used the ProLight mods and we had the 3x3s. But we shortened the photo shoot a little bit this year, and so it was really hectic, and we just did not have time to wheel these onto the set. And with the remote now, I can control the other lights. So when we had them over the top of this backdrop, what I could do is just turn them on with my remote, and instead of having to wheel stuff in, it just made things a whole lot simpler. So that is the light setup, and this is kind of where I was tethered to right over here. Samples here. And this is when I'm working the 7-light setup here, and a neat thing about this lighting setup, I have to give myself kind of a range of lighting. My players aren't going to be static. And so, some lighting setups you can be really specific about your lighting because your talent is going to be basically in one area and they're not going to be moving too much. But I know from having done this for years and years that we're going to be doing action type stuff. The guys are going to be moving around. Sometimes we'll have more than one player in front of the camera. And so this lighting setup with these larger modifiers and all, it kind of creates this bubble of light where the exposure on my player works in all kinds of different areas on this setup. So they can move around a good bit and be well exposed, as you can see like right here. Although he is pretty close to the mark as you can kind of see it right here on the grass. But let's scroll through a couple more of these. Kicker. So once again, I'm also relying on the flash duration. I've talked about this in the past too. That is what is freezing this action. It's not a 200th of a second, that's for sure. And so the flash duration is what is freezing my subject. And that in mind, and with battery powered flashes, that's one reason, as I was mentioning, the ISO choice on my camera here. So I can keep that power level about midway on the strobes, and that 5 to possibly, well, under 6 is where I like to keep them. The Pro Light mods I normally take to 6 or maybe a little bit more, but these other lights I try to keep them underneath 6, and that way I know when I'm cycling, when I'm shooting at a faster drive mode on this camera, they can recycle quick enough for at least probably 5, maybe 6 exposures to help me capture this action and not have to be too precise with my camera, although I'm doing my best to time these types of situations like this here. But it's really hard to do, and so when you give yourself that leeway, it just makes life easier for yourself. So there's a kick and shot, and once again with the booms I can have an assistant bring the boom down, as I'll kind of show with some of these behind the scenes clips too. And so when my players, they kneel down, that's where the beauty of that boom comes in, because I've got to get light into that helmet right there so you can kind of still see their eyes. If you don't do that, it's just a big shadow because the lights are higher than where he is in his body position. Once again, just some other kind of different poses we're doing. Now this is when I turn off the umbrella, camera left, turn off the strip, turn off the key light, and turn off the fill light. So I'm just using that overhead light, which is doing a great job lighting up his shoulder pads, top of the helmet. You can see the reflection kind of right there in the helmet. And then I've got the reflectors on the corners and the Pro Light mods to give that kind of stadium look. So I love this type of backlit image, and we kind of put this to use last year and then brought this back again this year. Same lighting effect right here. So I'm basically using the ambient to fill in my uniform and stuff like that. And what's kind of neat about this building is there are windows that are kind of up high. The ceiling and stuff is reflecting light, and it kind of gradiates the light as it goes down. And so it gets darker as you get closer to the turf. And that sometimes that can work for you, and sometimes it might work against you. If a player kneels down in this type of setup, they do get a little too dark. And so I've learned that through working through these days of shooting over there. But for this jersey combination with the white pants, it's just fantastic. If let me just kind of put this out there too, if they were wearing a different jersey combination and the ambient was not giving me what I was getting right here, then I probably would cut on my fill light and adjust that power to do what the ambient is doing right here. So that's one thing I would have to adjust. Another look there. Smoke machine, it'll be linked down below off of Amazon, and I will link the smoke that I used as well. I think it was a Froggy, like quick dispersion type of smoke that I was using this year, and it as you can see here, it worked just fine. Another one here. So this is, as I was mentioning earlier, sometimes I will turn off my fill light just to give me a little more drama in my images, and that's exactly what you see right here. So I've got just my key light, and then the backlit overhead lights, the reflectors, the 2 Pro Light mods, and then my key light. I'm not working the edge lights at all here. And then so that's giving me this lighting on kind of the side of his face, and I'm getting that fall off because I'm not kicking any fill into him on this image. Another, just kind of more of a clean shot. Also used, let me throw out there too, I was using a 1/8 black Pro Mist filter. You can see you can get some flare on the lens with using those like reflector lights, but for this type of work I felt like it was giving me what I needed, and it works really well with the Pro Light mods up here when I don't have smoke around those. It gives them that nice glow. But sometimes I will come in, something like this is very dramatic. I kind of like this posing and how the light is running down here very subtly. One more shot here, just kind of showing a different pose that we're using with the players. This was, I believe, everything but the fill light. And actually the edges are, the edges are off, so it's basically the same lighting setup as what we had, where is he? Right here. So that one, and then this one where I've got the key light on, no fill, no umbrella, no strip, and I'm using the reflectors and the overhead and Pro Light mods there. So that'll give you a look into kind of some of the results we got here. All right, and quickly before we kind of jump into this, I want to thank Amaran for they sent one of these lights over for me to test before we built this kind of background setup. And it's a RGB, this is a 150C Amaran. It's got a really cool, nice functions back here on the back. You can flip it back and forth from just kind of your standard white light to your full RGB spectrum. Really well built, and it's amazing the technology, how these lights have progressed over the last probably, 3 to 5 years, and the pricing on these, I believe, you can get them on sale sometimes for like sub $300, these lights, and they're really built well. I want to thank Amaran for sending that light over. These lights worked flawlessly during the shoot. There's also the Sidus Link app. So as you'll see, we had like 12 of these lights together. And using that app, we were able to set up different patterns, or they were able to set up kind of different patterns where they could kind of get the lights to flash and change colors and all that kind of fun stuff. So let's jump back over here. So we're using these pole stands, and right after this we'll jump over and I'll show you some of the different pole stands. I've gotten a bunch of questions about those, and I'll hopefully answer those, because that's a whole deep dive on figuring out which stands to use here. But we had 4 pole stands put together. I'll just play this so you can kind of see how these lights were flashing. And so each stand had 3 lights on it, and you've got these handles right here. Oh, you can see one right here. So it's got a grip on it. You pull that and you can slide the handles up and down. And it's just it's the best way I've found to be able to stack lights on top of each other without having to combine stands, which kind of creates a whole mess of legs and everything underneath your setup. And so that's what we were doing. We had 3 lights on a stand, obviously 4 stands, and you've got 12 lights. So you can see that right there. And like I said too, they kind of mixed them up during the week just to kind of change things around. Let me say here, while we're looking at this, most of these, well, 3 of them in this setup were black and not chrome. So they kind of, I guess, disappear into the backdrop as best as possible. As you'll see in a minute when I run through the different types of these stands. This one here is chrome, so we ended up using cinefoil and just wrap that around the chrome portions of the stand that you could see through the boxes here. And what that did is helped kind of keep that stand at a minimum, where you're not just seeing that stand in the background visually. So that is one way around, if you do have a chrome version of the stand and you don't want to see it in your backdrop, is to pick up some cinefoil. You could put gaff tape on there, but you're just going to take it off. And you wouldn't be able to slide these arms up and down if you put the gaff tape on there, or you wouldn't be able to slide them very easily. Let me put it that way. All right, so we'll back out here, and you can get one more look at kind of how this all kind of came together. Really cool stuff. I'll show some video clips that they were able to put together, using these different types of arrays of backgrounds with this setup. But from here, let's go jump over to my studio setup, and I'll just kind of run through a couple of these different column stands so I can show you the differences in them if you're looking at ordering them for yourself, and hopefully that'll save you some time and money, letting me be the guinea pig and show you the different, I guess, things that are different handles that they have, and the different types of stands. And I unfortunately had to learn by ordering them and getting them here and seeing the differences firsthand, but that's what we'll look at right now. All right, so I set up 2 of the boxes just like you saw in the video. Got one in the hue saturation mode and one in the CCT mode. And you can see that the Pro Light mods work really nicely on for video lights, as well as your strobe lights that you would use in a photo shoot. So let's go around here and we will take a look at how this is set up on the stand, just kind of like what you saw a minute ago. And These are the grips or the slides here. They call these like sliding parts of the stand, or they call it, or you'll see where they're maybe called pistol grips. You've got 2 different sizes. So you want to keep in mind, I think this is like around 7 inches and then this one's like around 9 inches. I prefer these longer ones just because when you have a larger light, although these fit just fine on the smaller stand, this is the smaller one. But when you have, I know the FJ400s are a little bit long, and so when you've got one of these smaller grips here, that it'll hit up against the pole, so then you have to adjust it from here. So if you can, maybe look for the larger grips there. That will help alleviate that issue. But I wanted to show there are different sizes of these you can get. The taller ones are around a little over 8 feet, and the shorter ones are a little over 7 feet. So you just need to determine if you're gonna need 3 lights or 2 lights. You can easily do 2 lights on the shorter stands. And I would probably say for the money that this impact stand here, I'll have these linked below, is what they call a black chrome. So it's a little bit reflective, but you can see I've stacked these 2 together. This is a standard kind of chrome, and this one is obviously darker. The impact also comes with the longer handles, straight with the stand, so you don't have to worry about that as well. Best overall would be these black Manfrottos, but the price on those is twice what you pay for any of these other ones, so it's hard for me to recommend them at that price, which is, I believe, right around probably 350 bucks. And you can get these for anywhere from 150 to 200 bucks, depending on what you're looking for. All right, so I didn't want to go on too deep of a dive on these stands, but hopefully that's enough information to where it will save y'all some time and money if you're going to go and order those for your own setup. So that's it for me today. Y'all, if you feel like this video is worthy, please give it a like. For more content just like this, hit that subscribe button down there and the little bell so YouTube will let you know when I'm back on here. In the meantime, y'all can find me on social media at quantzphoto on Instagram as well as ProLight Mods. Y'all stay safe and healthy out there, and I'll see you soon in the next one.